It is absolutely possible to find a really good camera for social media content in every price range. So in this video I'm gonna show you the best cameras for YouTube content, ranging from really affordable cameras for 300 euros up to very expensive cameras for over 7,000 euros. And yes, in every price range means exactly that, in every price range. Because without even spending a single penny, you can film really great content for social media using just your smartphone. Because, fun fact, all the shots you just saw were actually just filmed on my smartphone. But if you are ready to take the step and actually spend money on your first camera, then you're in the right place, because I'll explain from start to finish which camera I would buy in different price ranges, and in general what I would look for when buying a new camera. Let's start with category number 1, where you want to spend under 300 euros. Well, you might disagree with me on this one, but before I recommend a point-and-shoot camera for 300 euros, why not just take that 300 euros and add it to the budget for your next smartphone? Because if you're already planning to spend 300 euros on your next phone and then another 300 euros on a camera, you might as well buy a good phone for 600 euros that can also take good photos and videos. Honestly, most of us already carry a smartphone that can take fantastic photos and videos. So in that case, I would actually invest the money in lighting and the microphone. For 300 euros, you can already get the R60X as a light and also the Rode VideoMic Mini as a microphone, and you will have definitely invested your money much better than in any cheap camera.
Money well spent.
Fun fact, this is exactly how it would look like and sound with exactly that combination: smartphone, R60X and Rode VideoMic Mini. Sure, if you really want to get into the professional realm, then a smartphone may be a bit limiting. But for the vast majority of social media content, the smartphone is more than enough. Honestly, I believe that smaller consumer cameras will eventually become obsolete and be completely replaced by smartphones. Let's move on to category number 2, cameras up to around 500 euros. In the range of up to 500 euros, I actually have 2 recommendations for you, both of which have their clear advantages and disadvantages. On one hand, we have a small, cute and handy camera, the Canon EOS M50. The absolute biggest advantage of this camera is that it is small and handy and still delivers surprisingly good quality in both photos and videos. An absolute must-have for video content. It even comes with a dedicated microphone input. Please never use the audio directly from the camera. And it has a flip-out screen, which is incredibly useful for vlogging, for example. However, it has 2 disadvantages. First, it does not come with a log profile, so you are somewhat limited in color grading. And secondly, there aren't that many lenses available for the EFM mount that the camera uses. Another alternative, and my second recommendation under 500 euros, would be to go for a slightly older camera. Because you can often find the Canon 5D Mark III for under 500 euros online these days. I mean, yes, the camera was released in 2012, so it's more than 10 years old, but it's still a professional camera with a full-frame sensor. So if you want to experience using a professional camera and get used to professional features, then even 10 years later, the Canon 5D Mark III is still a great choice. It offers proper Canon lock, of course, not just a microphone input, but even a headphone output to test the audio, and with the EF mount, you have the option to use a wide variety of lenses. The downside, it's significantly larger and bulkier, unfortunately doesn't have a flip-out screen, and 4K wasn't a big deal 10 years ago, so it supports a maximum of Full HD. However, the 4K on the M50 is also not true 4K but cropped, so if you want 4K, you might just need to spend a little more. The next category includes cameras priced approximately between 600 and 800 euros. And the first camera I must mention in this range is actually the first Sony on this list, the Sony ZV1. In Sony's ZV series, there are several cameras optimized specifically for vloggers, which deliver relatively good image and sound quality while still being small, handy and easy to carry around. The cheapest of them is the Sony ZV1F for just under 500 euros, which I have not included in this list because it doesn't have optical zoom, so you're stuck with the 20mm ultra wide angle lens. I personally would recommend going for the bigger sister, the Sony ZV1, which is available for around 650 euros. That one can zoom, and it also offers some other very cool features such as an internal ND filter, allowing you to vlog outdoors in daylight without any issues. The biggest drawback of the ZV1 is that it doesn't have interchangeable lenses. Actually, neither the ZV1 nor the ZV1F have, so you are stuck with the built-in lens. However, all of the other essential features for social media content like the flip-out screen and microphone input are of course included. So if you really want interchangeable lenses, you can go one step higher to the Sony ZV E10, which also comes with interchangeable lenses, but at a slightly higher cost. In addition, in this price range, we should definitely also mention the Canon EOS M50 MK2, which is the successor of the M50 Mark1 that I already mentioned earlier. Now let's move on to the next price range, up to a maximum of 1,000 euros. In this range, I would currently recommend the Canon R10. It also comes with all the features that a content creator might use, including a flip-out screen, microphone input, and it can shoot up to 4K at up to 60 frames per second, although then with a crop. However, if you lower the frame rate to 24 or 30 frames per second, you can shoot without a crop and even get a downscaled 6K image, which means that when you shoot in these frame rates, you get really sharp results because they are captured in 6K and then downscaled to 4K. Another advantage, which might sound a bit strange at first, is that this camera can shoot vertically, meaning you could, for example, directly transfer your video clips directly from the camera to your phone via Wi-Fi and then upload them as TikToks, Reels, or YouTube Shorts, for example. The only downside here again is that there aren't many lenses available for the RFS mount used by the camera because it's still relatively new on the market. But what if you're willing to spend more than 1,000 euros up to around 2,500 euros? Well, if you're really willing to spend that much money, I hope you're no longer a beginner and you already know what features are important to you in a camera. Because I would definitely not recommend for a beginner to spend more than 1,000 euros. But in this price range, I would recommend the Canon R6 without hesitation, which is also the camera you see me using right now. The Canon R6 is actually the second best camera I've ever had in my hands. And no, the best one isn't the R5, because at least in my opinion, the price difference between the R6 and R5 isn't really justified by the additional features the R5 offers. But the Canon R6 has everything you could wish for in both photo and video, including a full frame sensor, 4K without any crop at up to 60 FPS, a flip-out screen, microphone input, a good lock profile, beautiful color reproduction, and more. The only drawback here really is that at 4K at 60 FPS, it generates really large video files. But I guess that's the price you have to pay for good quality. If for some reason I was not allowed to go with Canon, I would probably choose the Sony ZV E1 instead in this price range, which is also clearly designed for vlogging and it's also marketed that way by Sony. Here too, you have a full frame sensor with 4K video at up to 60 FPS with 10-bit 422 recording, which is identical in terms of numbers to the Canon R6. It also has a flip-out screen, microphone input, and all the other features you'd expect at this price point. Now, I mentioned earlier that the R6 is only the second best camera I've ever had in my hands. So what's the best one? Full disclosure, most of us probably can't afford it.
That's not the rules. No money, no honey.
I also don't own it either. I only had a brief chance to test it. But I found the Canon R3 pretty amazing, especially the eye tracking feature. To explain, the R3 can track your eye movements when you look through the viewfinder and it automatically focuses on what you're looking at. I didn't really have enough time to test how reliable this actually works in real-world scenarios, but in situations where you need to be quick, I imagine it's incredibly useful to just look where you want the focus to be. Wow. But the R3 also comes with some other amazing features, like the ability to remember faces and prioritize focusing on these faces when they're in frame. And actually, I believe this is the direction that camera development will take in the future. Because in terms of pure image quality, we've reached a level where even a smartphone can produce outstanding photos and videos. So camera manufacturers will have to focus more and more on equipping their cameras with intelligent features that make our workflow easier instead of focusing purely on image quality. I'm particularly curious about how intelligent AI features could play a role in future cameras. Overall, I believe that our creative possibilities will skyrocket in the next few years thanks to AI. Because I don't think that AI will take our jobs away. Quite the opposite, actually. I explain why I see it that way in this video, which you should definitely watch next.